This is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Welcome to Dig on America, where we speak truth to power. Every week, we give you the dig on how American history, policies, and media created the social and political issues we face today. DOA is independent media supported by listeners, but they'll tell you we're just fake news, deep state propaganda, funded by George Soros, the Clinton Foundation, BLM Marxists, and
Doc Brown.
What's my man's name from Gargamel? Yeah, that's my man from the Smurfs.
Oh, those dirty Smurfs. I'm gonna get Smurfette. What's up, everybody? It's Jason Dutch. Welcome back to another episode of Dig Up. Why are we all so fucking close to each other? Get the fuck
that's
away.
what I
Let's get some space, man.
Jesus Christ, man, y'all crowding up on me.
I felt like I was on CNN. I thought I was on CNN.
Right.
What do you think? What do you think, there, Wolf? I'll
somebody
back the hell.
Right. Let's go. There we go.
There
we go.
Up on the bottom. Welcome,
space.
everybody, to Dig on America, where we talk history, we talk politics, we talk a little bit of media and pop culture here and again. Welcome into the show. Thank you to everyone who is going to be joining the chat. Roll Tide, you're here early tonight, brother. Thanks for joining the show. And share the show tonight. We have a special guest on, but before I get to our special guest, let me introduce the man, the myth, not quite a legend, Big Hasalasa Ding Dong. What's up?
What's going on, man? How y'all feeling today?
Oh, we're just amazingly good, Big Hus. We miss you.
Good, man.
It's been a day. It's been a day.
It has been a day. Well, it's always a day.
Oh, there we
That's
go.
The sun,
Take that sip.
the sun.
It's been one of those.
Yeah. The sun comes up, and therefore you have literally a day. Welcome in. With us today, we have a guest with us that
Really?
we are very honored to have. I reached out to this cat the other day on Twitter and just said, "Hey, I like your shit," and then he just fell down and begged me. He's like, I've always wanted to be on Dig on America. It's been a lifelong dream.
I had to give you the fanboy vibe. You know what I'm saying? I had to. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
Got to geek out a little bit.
Sometimes you got to, man.
But we have with us from Politoscope and from the Young Turks, Jackson White. What's up, brother? Woo!
Man, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's a good time to be in politics, and it's an important time to be in politics. But other than that, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Everything could be worse. We made it through 2020. Things are picking up. We still got a lot to deal with, but hope is always alive. Well, it still feels like it.
Yeah.
Still feels like it, man. But no, I'm doing good. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hey, we're happy to have you. Big House, have you caught any of this guy's stuff on TYT?
I have not. Well, maybe, but I'm not really. I don't think.
See, here's an interesting fact about Big Haas. He never goes on the internet unless because he spends his whole day posting on YouTube or
really?
on Facebook, posting on Facebook and fighting with the right wingers on Facebook.
So I'll challenge you on that to look at my freaking Snapchat and see all the people I was training today.
What are you, 17?
Yes, I am. You got to keep your finger on the pulse when you train these little peoples. You got to keep your finger on the pulse. So I'm even TikToking now.
You TikToking?
I'm TikToking. I got 4 holes.
I tried to get on there, and it seemed very complicated. Like,
you know what? It's less complicated than it looks. The first couple of times I tried to post, I was like,
yeah.
But it's okay. It's okay. I see why the young people like it.
Well, there's many people doing it. It can't be too complicated. So I guess I just need to stop being lazy.
Yeah. Hey, you gotta check
we
out.
need to get on there. You
gotta check out those hashtags. Some of those hashtags are crazy.
Yeah.
Like they've got like hashtag MILF talk. I'm like, for real? It just comes up like, MILF talk or sports talk or something like that.
What MILF talk? TALK?
No, TOK. See, old ass.
Talk. I thought you were talking about like TAC as in short for taco. I was gonna be like, that's a little bit weird.
Oh my God.
Oh no.
I'd never be off TikTok.
Right.
One thing I've always wondered about Jackson is well, not always. I've only known who you were for a few weeks, but so it'll be my first question. We're gonna jump into our first game of the day. Let me get the fucking.
We're doing 4 down territory.
We're gonna go with 4 down territory. So here's what we do on 4 down territory. We're gonna ask you 4 questions. You're gonna give us 4 answers. These are generally just stupid questions. So let me call the audible. Omaha 42-16. Jackson, Mississippi. Said what? See, Mikey's not here to tell me to shut up when I do that.
That's your thing that you do.
I'm just gonna shake my head like
Mikey fucking hates it. But all right, so Haas, you want to take the first question?
you just said you were gonna ask him a question.
I don't have to go first.
One of y'all.
Oh well, I figured you
All
were gonna ask the question first.
I'm gonna ask you. I will ask the first question, and this is probably the most personal question I've ever asked anyone. But I was thinking of this today because I had stopped at the pharmacy to pick up a prescription. I used the restroom, and I started thinking, I wonder if I'm the only one who does this. So here's my question. When you use the urinal, do you pee on the cake or around the cake?
I think it.
We ask deep, hard-hitting questions.
This is a deep question. I have to search my memory banks for this. I think normally I would go around it because there may be a bit of too much splash action from the cake. But, you know, depending on how deep the urinal is, I might go on the cake because it makes it a bit more interesting. But typically, you know,
trying to disintegrate, you trying to burrow a hole
exactly.
through that.
Exactly, right. Like on some chemistry type shit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
see, now House will tell you, I sort of lay on the cake as I go. But that's not because of the reason why you might think. It's because he's about 3'6" tall. So anyway, all right. So around the cake is the answer. I try to drill a hole through that shit. Big House, what you got?
All right. So I'm going to ask another hard-hitting bathroom question of you.
All right.
Toilet paper over or toilet paper under?
Oh, over for sure. For sure. Like, no,
okay, now that we have
no questions asked. Like, no questions asked. It's more efficient that way.
Do you understand the debate that goes on in certain households about how the toilet paper is put on? Not in my house. We don't care. But I've got some friends that they and their spouses have knocked down battles, like pissed off if you put it under and they want it over. So
it's definitely over for me. Like, no doubt. It just seems it's more sufficient.
You just hit that thing, bang, bang.
Yeah, when it's under, you gotta go back and you gotta be all delicate.
Over, you just hit
exactly
like Wheel of Fortune in this motherfucker.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? That's a perfect analogy. That's perfect.
All right, and Brandon, thank you for sharing that you aim for it. Oh,
yeah,
Lamar,
so
that's the way. That's the way the print is on one over. That's the way the print. Why the print is one on one side. Very, very, very well done. Well said, Lamar.
Yeah.
My second question for you: your favorite comic book superhero and why?
Batman, no doubt, 100%. And the reason is because he has no powers. He has to be better than everybody. He has to work the hardest. He has to study the hardest. He has to, obviously he's got money and everything, but like, and two, like also like Batman because he's dark. He's more realistic. He struggles with himself. He's more of an interesting, well-written character. In my opinion, like characters like Superman or people who are like all good all the time. It's just, I don't really get a sense of real life from them. You know,
that's why I like Deadpool.
Yeah. Like I you know, like
you
just
know,
he's
got his faults.
Yeah, like
Deadpool's on MILF talk for sure.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Or I don't know if you guys are familiar with like Dragon Ball Z or Naruto. Like I like Vegeta better than Goku because his story is more interesting.
Mikey's gonna be so pissed off.
Goku's too perfect.
And
he's gonna be pissed off right now because he will be all in on all this right here.
So Jackson is not only a progressive, but he loves anime and fucking. He's from St. Louis. Mikey, we got a new Mikey. We don't even need Mikey anymore. We just got we got you,
Mikey.
Right.
Thank God. Yeah. Fuck you, Mikey.
You know what I'm saying? Well, just Mikey may agree. I like Sasuke better than Naruto because Naruto is too good and too you know what I'm saying?
He's all happy, all and positive, and sunshine and
like,
rainbows and Skittles all the time,
yeah,
huh?
it's just not.
I understand. You want that. I like a flawed hero. That's why I love the Punisher too.
Yeah.
Come on.
I
love the Punisher.
Exactly.
Those are rooting for him.
Those are the types of characters I gravitate towards.
Like, did you watch? And this is not one of my questions, but did you watch Luke Cage, Jackson?
Yeah, on Netflix series.
Yeah.
Yes,
I watched the first season. I watched it.
You didn't watch the second season?
I don't think I did.
I was going to talk about a perfect villain that you root for was Bushmaster.
Yeah,
in the second season.
The second season, yeah.
He was such a great actor, and his storyline was so compelling that I found myself rooting for him.
Yeah.
In the show. So that if you get a chance, check that second.
Oh yeah,
second season out.
Yeah, I gotta find. I need some more stuff to watch. So
yeah,
definitely for sure.
Now my real question is this: best Nas album in your opinion?
I don't know. I could name you Jay-Z albums.
Oh, he's one of those.
Wow, he knows his place in the beef.
Hey, I could name you Jay-Z. I really
okay.
Can.
So how much of a heretic am I that I think Reasonable Doubt is?
I strongly disagree. I think that's his best album, actually.
Really?
Yeah,
really?
I do. I think it's his best album just because
better than the Blueprint.
I like the Blueprint. I like the Black Album and 444 the best.
Yeah, I think I like Reasonable Doubt, Blueprint, Black Album too, and then I also like what was it? I'm trying to think of if it's
Hard Knock Life.
Sneaking. I don't know if I like that whole one the best. Definitely Reasonable Doubt is my favorite for sure.
Okay.
No doubt.
All right.
I listen to that over and over and over again.
Really?
It's just I don't know. It just does it for me.
I gotta
That's
know
crazy.
Big House.
What
is it? Is it Nostradamus or Illmatic? Which one is your favorite?
Illmatic, hands down.
Yeah, Illmatic is one of my favorite hip hop albums of all time.
Yeah, and Nas's last album he just put out in bad either.
King's Disease 2.
Yeah,
it was good.
Yeah,
it was good.
Bad. Yeah. I mean, Nas is good. You know what I'm saying? Like he's one of the best ever.
Man, some of his lyrics, like we were so jaded. I don't know how old you are, but
Crying Free.
Dutch and I Crying Free was one of the best anime shows in the history of anime.
Mm-hmm.
But I was so jaded that, you know, you listen to like Nas and AZ and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, here I was like, kind of like, oh, AZ came out with an album. Okay, great. That's fine. You know, but listening back to some of his older albums, I'm like, man, if he had come out in the last 5 to 10 years, I'd be like, whoa, this dude is crazy. Just because I feel like how far hip hop has degraded, you know?
You know who else I think that's true of is Del.
Del the fucking Homo sapien? Yeah.
I think he was underappreciated in his time.
Just like Socrates and Roscos and people like that were really respected regionally. I think that if they had come out later, they would have had more exposure nationally because they're just so good, so underrated.
I was lucky enough just in general to like grow up in hip hop's best time. I was born in '92. So by the time and I love music, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I just love. I constantly am consuming just music.
Yeah.
You know, growing up in the late '90s, early mid 2000s, that's when hip hop. Really
that was one of like the second golden age of music.
Yeah. Of rap. I think the best time probably for me was '92 to '95.
Yeah, those mid '90s were just '92.
Souls of Mischief, EPMD.
Yeah. Oh, Well, EPMD actually came out in like the early.
They came out way before that, but the album Business Never Personal, I believe, was a '93, and then Sermon had his own right after that.
Yeah,
and it was such a great period because you had Nirvana, you had Pearl Jam coming out.
Yeah, so Stone Temple Pilots,
Audio Slave. There was just the music in the early '90s. In fact, you could maybe Jackson's theme to life could be 92 to infinity, or 93 to infinity was the song, but you can say 92 to infinity because it's only off by a year.
Right.
But it was just it really truly was an amazing age of music.
Really,
and I don't really listen to anything anymore that's new. Like new shit.
I still there's still
new shit that's on the radio.
There's still great new stuff. You just have to look for it.
You got to look for it. Yeah.
There's still people who have, taken the influences of real instrumentation, and whether they're, using that classic rock and roll, they're using the blues influence. There's a group called Jazz. I've been listening to the album for several days. They call Jazz Boys. 3 white boys that can play the shit out of some jazz, and it's more modern. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a ton. I just love music, but I think that music overall, it's become much more cheap because you can just kind of throw it out. But at the same time, like there's, because technology's advanced, like just people's ability to produce like sounds that you just really get into, you just got to find them. But like platforms like SoundCloud and stuff.
Like I like Kendrick Lamar, I like J. Cole, but they don't get the play on the radio, and I think that's where the mainstream of hip hop has lost that balance. Yeah. Like for a Two Live Crew song back in the day, you had Queen Latifah, or you had Public Enemy or something. You had balance on the radio. You know what I mean? So I think that has filtered away, and now if you want that balance, you gotta go and search for it, like you said, Jackson. It's like you gotta go and look for it and go find Black Milk. You gotta find Logic. You gotta find some of these other artists that are just amazing out there that are really, putting out some good stuff.
Also interesting about that is just a lot of the what plays on the radio meshes into cultural advertisement. You know what I'm saying? And just the culture that's pushed of consumption. Yeah. And chasing a lifestyle of having more, and all of that's really symmetrical. Whatever the mainstream is, what I'm saying?
It's like, hey, we're not making a record for the people, we're making a record to make a commercial too. Instead of you need to speak to the people.
Yeah, exactly. So that making commercials that different types of clothing brands profit off of, and different types of, even sports, you know what I'm saying? Like it's all intertwined. So, but that also definitely has impacted the quality, as you've said. So, and
also, I think that technology has allowed you to push music out so quickly that you don't take time to refine it like you used to when it was, a longer process to actually get it to market. Now you can get you could throw something together right now in 10 minutes and put it out on social media. But before, you really had to craft it together. And I think that creative process has been, augmented so much that you get stuff put out that maybe, if refined, might be a lot better.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. All right, pushing forward. I had one funny thing I want to show you guys. Today is
take
actually
his pants off.
Yes. That wouldn't be funny. That would just be a whitewash in here.
A blinding light.
So let me share my screen here. So today is my the day that I got married. And I wanted to show you this. So this is just kind of funny. This is not mine, but I came across. Can you see my screen here? You can see this RSVP card. So I want to read for you. I just saw this online. I thought it was hilarious. So this is an RSVP card to a wedding. It says RSVP. The favor of your reply is requested the 21st of August. They blotted out the name. Look what these motherfuckers done did. Themselves are RSVPing.
And the family.
14 adults plus 2 more, plus 3 kids, plus 1 more, ages 2, 6, 18, and 23 months.
God bless it.
We're just going to bring everybody.
Yeah.
You just gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah, I'd have humbly wrote them back like, y'all can stay home.
Right, we're gonna have babies in this bitch. You know what I'm saying? Like,
unfucking believable.
Wait, keep scrolling though. Keep scrolling.
Okay, so here's the bottom. I promise to dance if you play. I think I don't know if this is one song or two. Elias, Follow Me, Club Mix.
Yeah, it's the club mix. You got to play the club mix.
You got to get the club mix. You get
Alias is the artist, and Follow Me Club Mix. They want the 7-minute version. They don't want the radio version. That was 3.5 minutes. They want. And then Beyonce before.
They're trying to be in there fucked up.
Oh my God.
So you got that one, and then there's another one here I want to show you guys as well. So this is just a picture of a bridal party, but I'm telling you, man, Americans are fucking crazy ass people. So here's the Facebook post. Haas, can you read that?
Searching for that's messed up right there. Photographer for my wedding. Here are my requirements. There's no period or anything, man. He's just gonna run right into that. Must be willing to job for free. Must have at least 8 years of experience. What? Must be at the wedding all the time, no breaks. Whoa! Bring your own food and drinks. God damn.
Right. You might as well just ask your
right
grandma or grandpa to just film shit if that's the case.
That's crazy.
Right. You're gonna do it for free, but you gotta have about a decade of experience.
Right. I'm out here for 6 hours.
I could see asking somebody
6 hours and do it for free.
I could see somebody asking somebody like, maybe it's you just started your business. No, you got to be experienced and worth hundreds.
That's like those job posters now that'll say, you got to have a master's degree, but the starting salary is $15 an hour.
That's like those people on like Instagram who are like, fix your credit, but it's just like Ray from down the street. You know what I'm saying? Like the people who don't know nothing about the financial market or finance be like, just give me some money, I'll fix your credit. Like, okay. You know what I'm saying? Give me your credit card information. I got you. I'll send me $2,000. I'll send you $5,000.
Oh, like one of these televangelists.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying?
Give me some money. I'll send you some water.
This is special blessed prayer oil.
Right. Send us $100.
It's Wesson oil in a tube.
$1,000.
I got invited to a wedding one time where the guy told me, he's like, hey, you can come to my wedding, but the minimum gift is $150. And I'm like, all right, don't invite me to your motherfucking
don't
wedding.
invite me to your wedding.
Well, I won't be there then.
Yeah, I won't be. I would have bought you. It might have been $150.
Right.
But when you say the minimum gift, I'm like, okay. Right. Because you're guaranteed to get some shit. I'll put a bag of ants in the box.
Those are the type of people who do everything for the gram anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to have a big, marvelous wedding so that everybody can see it who wasn't there.
All right, so let's get into our first topic of the day. We're going to talk about the Emancipation Proclamation here in a minute, but we have two other topics we want to talk about. We'll talk about what's going on in Haiti before we get to the humidor. But first and foremost, I want to talk about what's happened the other day with Justice for J6. So I do have a video where I've gone through and and you guys know how I am if you watch this show, if you're unfortunate enough to watch this show, that I'm not the best with video editing, but I'm trying my fucking best to kind of skip through this. So I want to frame this in this particular way because the Justice for J6 rally was not particularly successful. And I think I know one of the reasons why. But I'm going to read from Vox here. Not much happened at the Justice for J6 rally. The far right's focus is elsewhere. I agree with that. But here is just a brief paragraph on it, and then I'll pass it over to you guys. On Saturday, a rally, this was from a week ago, this upcoming Saturday, so a few days ago. On Saturday, a rally by supporters of former President Trump came and went peacefully, quote, with a heavy police presence and media presence and only a handful of arrests. So remember that, a handful of arrests. Before the event, DC officials were focused on preventing a repeat of January 6th, but more than 8 months, far-right groups have shifted their focus to more local causes. That's where my video will be about. Ultimately, only about 100 people showed up, according to an estimate by Washington's Andrew Bujan, fewer than predictions. About 100 people showed up, even Vox is biased in their reporting here. Listen, think about this. 100 people showed up with a handful of arrests. What's a handful? 2, 9? I mean, out of 100?
Yeah, if it's 10, that'd be 10%.
Yeah.
So that sounds like it was a little bit more than what they're even reporting on it being, but why do you guys think that this was a failure? Jackson, go ahead first, and any thoughts that you have on the event in general.
Well, I think that this particular event was a failure because nothing real could have come from it. So there wasn't, really much motivation for like a nationwide collaboration. However, I think the biggest issue with this is that this type of behavior is what's really come to drive ultimately the Republican Party and everything that it influences. It's not focused on policy. It's not focused on doing things like improving the education system, improving housing, changing up the tax laws in any type of meaningful way.
Oh, of course not.
It's shifting more and more and more towards just emotional poison in such a way that, I was just talking about this the other day. Larry Elder in California just got steamrolled. But just his very presence, and people like Candace Owens and people like Charlie Kirk and some of the people who are running against Greg Abbott in Texas right now, a right-wing comedian, it's just becoming, this idea of like governing's easy. You don't really have to do much. You can't govern that. And so there's this increasing growing body of the right-wing electorate in the country that really can't be governed. And that's a huge problem moving forward. It just is, people who are completely detached from reality and who really only care about the entertainment aspect of, sticking it to the libs. So,
and the culture wars.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that the first sentence that Jackson said hit the nail on the head. It was, nothing meaningful could happen from it. So it's like, are we going to go and stand out there and shake our signs and not really, not really have anything to do? I mean, the security forces were prepared this time. So, they can't repeat what they're trying to do. And they're off to other stuff. They're off to definitely, more importantly, preparing for anything to anti-abortion stuff and just other emotional stuff. And like he said, just sticking it to the libs and just really, really, really not having any substantive arguments on policy. I find a lot of times that when you stick to policy arguments, then they get quiet. And I think that, they're content in their bubbles and their echo chambers and are not interested in salient arguments at all.
Not at all.
I think that what it is that there's two things. The second one, the video will cover, but the first one is for the non-religious Republicans or moderately religious. The policy is bad, but they don't know why it's bad. But it must be bad because it didn't come from their people.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Because all you want to do is raise taxes, or because it's tied to pro-life, and that's why these wedge issues are so dangerous. Because the Republican Party, despite what people might think is going on right now, is really this is just a litmus test for Roe versus Wade, which even if it were overturned, people don't realize it wouldn't outlaw abortion. But they're really the Republican Party federally, nationally, has no interest in overturning abortion, because if they overturn it, then they don't have the wedge issue anymore. Right. So it comes down to, like I said before, culture wars. And in addition to the culture wars, the fact that the libs must be wrong because the libs are crazy, because they believe in all of this crazy shit that I've been told my whole life is crazy, like Red Scares, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just, you're getting to a point where the conversation just can't be had. And the worst part is that when they have nowhere to go, they turn to the smiley face emoji as their
the laughing emoji.
The laughing emoji, like LOL. I can't think of a reply, so I'm just gonna pretend it's so stupid that I'm just gonna reply with
Yeah.
Crying tears out.
And
Yeah,
I love that because I always respond. I know you have no rebuttal because all you did was send me that emoji. Because if you had any type of rebuttal, you would have typed what it was, but you had none. So that's why you do that. Thank you for acknowledging my win on this issue.
I think one of the things that really just struck in my mind is that this really it shows how interesting human nature really is, and underneath everything, how we really tick and how we really operate and what we respond to, being emotional and socially complex beings. You would think you can spit logic, you can drop facts, you can explain how coming together under certain types of policy issues would make society better as a whole, could do things like give us better roads to drive on, give us better infrastructure. I'm up here in Jersey, and I actually went 14 full days without hot water and gas because of the flooding from Hurricane Ida. Just a good example of why infrastructure is needed. Yeah. And that completely goes over people's heads in one ear and out the other, because, and this has always been a factor in, like all the way back to us just being in small tribes. It's how you can hook on to people's fears. It's how you can hook on to people's egotistical problems, people's issues with themselves, their insecurities, giving them a group to be in, giving them a connection to have a part of. And in order to stay within that group of people, you have to stay within a certain type of thinking. Because, like you said, they may send you back in a smiley face emoji laughing about stuff because they're in a fantasy. They're not in the same world that we live in. And again, I think that's just really interesting to think about, just how we work as human beings and what we're really dealing with here. So I mean, like how dictators throughout history were able to do what they did at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, you look at the conditions, you look at how people were feeling during those times, you look at all those different factors that allowed all the stars to align just right. And it's pretty fascinating when you think about it from a deeper level.
There's a show on Netflix called How to Become a Dictator. That's pretty interesting.
I think I watched that. Yeah.
They did Idi Amin, and that was just, I was like, wow, this is crazy. And they talk about the playbook and how it keeps getting repeated. It's interesting.
Because we work the way we work.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of the importance of things like regulations and just effective government in general is really just regulating our human nature. That's really what it's all about.
And the Democrats are not innocent in that either.
Oh no,
We'll talk a little bit more about that later. So what I want to do here is I want to play and this, as I told these guys before, this video is like 31 minutes long. I'm gonna jump through it and play about 2 minutes of it. And I have certain places where I've bullet pointed to stop at. But let me explain to you why I want to play this video. Because we talked a little bit about the political nature of it, but the religious nature of this Justice for J6 talking point, this narrative, is that America is under attack, right? And that's pretty much uniform throughout the right wing. When America is truly under attack, but not from who they think it is, right? We know who it's under attack from, the corporations in general, but the religious aspect of it, and I consider myself a Christian, but it becomes very dangerous when it's tied to things like prophecy and tied to things, of that nature. So I want to give you guys an idea of kind of what this is from Victory Channel. Okay. That's one of my favorite places to watch because the insanity is at its truest form. I don't know if either of you guys, Haas, I know I've played you clips from Victory before. Jackson, are you familiar with Victory Channel?
I'm not.
You won't be a guest on there. I can promise you that.
Right.
So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to share the screen again. Bear with me as I get these guys up here. So I'm going to start this video. Let me know if, you know what, actually here, let me make sure that I share it the right way. Oh, see, I fucked up again. Share audio, Dutch. you stupid
Fucking
ass.
Dutch.
I do it every single time. All right. If you can't hear this, let me know. But here's the first part.
And after January 6th, I really felt something begin to shift, not only in the show, but really in the nation, where people began to get outraged at what was happening to our country. And that's what I love about the Flashpoint Army, is we're going to take our country back.
Yeah. Did you hear that? We're going to take our country back. We've seen mainstream media be exposed for what they really are. Right. The good side, we've seen shows come up. We've seen platforms. We've seen people like our good friend Mike Lindell come take the nation. Christianity, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, Christianity in America, but it's really the world, but in America, since we're in America right now, Christianity in America has come to a dividing line of where you're going to stand. You know, in politics, it used to be you had the people on the far left, the people on the far right, and then you had where everybody liked to be. Oh, we're in the center. We reach across the aisle. Boy, you haven't heard that phrase in a long time. You know, and we want to play to everybody would play to the center. In the politics, that center is that 11% that would swing an election. That was in the middle. So look what's going on since 2020. It is extreme left, extreme right. And guess what's happened in the church? It's extreme left and extreme right. There is no middle. You can't be in the middle anymore. And I'm so happy to see pastors standing up. And listen, you got to pray. If your pastor's having a hard time, you need to be praying for him. We got to stand in faith and pray for him. And listen, if he's not going to go there, you need to go find a church. You go find another church if he's not going to stand up for what you believe.
All right, so I'll jump back into this in a minute, but just your thoughts on what you've seen so far, Jackson. What do you take from that?
I mean, what the hell is this guy talking about? And the unfortunate thing is, obviously, a lot of people listen and believe, but they're listening to nothing. You know, like how many people on all the news shows that he watches, the extreme left and the extreme right, there's no extreme left with any type of real influence in the country. Extreme left being like full on communism, like zero private industry. There is absolutely no threat of that in the United States of America. And then, you know, kind of what you pointed to about the whole prophesizing thing. These are the types of people that have existed all throughout, ever since human beings have been questioning why these types of people have existed. God is on my side and God wants what I want. And that's a justification to do as I please. That's a justification to take what I want. It gives me the right because God wants it. God wills it. And, you know, unfortunately, these people, the people who were in those audiences, they vote more than everyone else. So it's easy to overlook, you know, it's easy to be like, oh, it's just a fringe group of people. But that it's just enough people who vote in every single election to do things like, well, look what's happening in Texas. That's the end result of it. I'm
Catholic and I vote pro-life, and bumper stickers like that I see all over Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
the part that I think that you guys that people need to pay attention to in this, though, is that what he signaled clearly, and we'll get the prophetic part is the next clip or series of clips. But he said extreme left, extreme right, like Jackson pointed to. The thing is that he clearly said we know where we need to go. Yeah, implying that they need to go to the extreme right. Yeah. So
and if your pastor isn't willing to go there, you need to find another church that stand up for what you believe in. Not what the scripture says.
They're censoring pastors now?
Yeah.
Cancel culture.
I got a funny. I went to I was in Conroe, Texas, just like 40 minutes north of Houston. I went out there to do some field work for TYT, and I actually got permanently banned from the Mims Baptist Church in Conroe, Texas.
Oh, wow.
But it's these types of people. You know what I mean? Like they were hosting an extremely right-wing political event in their church with people like Charlie Kirk, Ted Cruz, Candace Owens speaking. This is happening in the church.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, and they really just flat out did not want us there. We had a run-in with the police. Luckily, that turned out to be, I'm here. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, but again, like, this happened on the property of a church,
Right.
So
And
that's what we're dealing with.
Which used to be a safe place, because as a guy who grew up in the church, I used to think of the church as Ron Zappia, the pastor of Harvest, now called High Point, Naperville, said it best, I think. The church should take you as you are and not how they want you to be. That is lost, because now if you don't share the exact ideology, you have a problem. And this part is going to speak to it, and this is why these conversations become so problematic when it comes to talking to family members or talking to friends who are becoming more and more zealots in their religious beliefs, is because I believe it must be true. It must be true. And if it's not true, it will be true eventually, because God said it's true, because I want God to have said this. And this is where I'm going to play this again right now. So let me share in real quick, and then we'll jump off this and get into our main topico. Let's get this going here, Jason. Oh, see, look, I did it again. I forgot to hit the volume button. You got to remind me of these things, Big House. I'm going to start blaming you.
There we go. Blaming the brown people again.
I mean, who else am I going to blame? Myself? I mean, come on.
Personal responsibility.
Yeah.
Except when it's me.
This has been a year in the prophetic that's been
There's the prophetic.
polarizing. And this has been a year of seeing many prophets say one thing, many prophets say another thing. I want to know, what is God saying through you right now about our nation?
Thank you. First of all, I want to say this. I want to thank you for standing for the nation. But I want to thank you we often think that 2 Chronicles 20:20 was...
Now, I skipped by there because there was he went off on a tangent, and he got back to the point here. So I'm not editing anything out.
The gathering of the people, and it was their worship that caused God to move. And really what it was a prophecy from a prophet that looked absolutely opposite of what was happening in the nation. And yet when they came together and rehearsed what God said, that he in fact would intervene, they began to sing and celebrate, and God began to answer. The devil who thinks that he can steal this nation and lie about God's prophets. The Lord is moving, and he is not done. He has unfinished business, and we're going to see it. So here's what God...
Okay. So
where was this filmed at? This one?
I don't know. I think they're right around where Jackson was at. He might have been the same event. But the
maybe.
But the because I know Flashpoint's Texas based. But again, listen to what they are telling you up front. That we are. They said before, we're taking our nation back, but now they're saying. What he said was, what you are seeing is, and what they saw in the past, which is a misinterpretation of the Bible verse, by the way, but what you are seeing is the opposite of what God wants. Right now, Trump has not been reinstated after 6 attempts, right? Or 6 prophesized days. So they're sitting there and they're saying, don't lose the faith. Don't worry. It's going to come back. We can't be wrong because because God's time, we don't know it, but we think we know it. So we know that it will happen, but when it happens, it's his time. And if you say that it's not his time, then you're wrong, because we know it's wrong because we have faith. And if you don't have faith, then you're part of the devil's agenda. So they look at the three of us in literal terms as being part of this demonic, satanic deep state. It's not just a joke that we do when we do the lead into the show that says, we're an unofficial arm of the deep state. They actually believe that is true. And whether they think that implicitly or overtly we believe these things, we cannot be right regardless of the facts, because the facts don't matter. The only thing that matters is what they want. And the Bible says that God's people shall be redeemed ultimately. So whatever they interpret it to be, therefore becomes what must be. And that is astonishingly dangerous. Big Haas, your thoughts?
Well, I think that because I mean, if anybody, people that listen to this, you can understand why whatever facts you might send them don't matter. Whatever study you might send them doesn't matter. Whatever statistics you might send them they don't matter. It doesn't matter that Mango Mussolini was on tape saying, hey, yeah, I know how dangerous it is. I know how bad it is, but I intentionally played it down. I like playing it down and then double down on that. Because in their minds, they've been told that God chose him. So no matter what he says, no matter how many tapes, videos, recordings, or whatever, he's God's chosen one. My pastor said so. So it's obviously a deep fake of his voice.
Right.
Or that's not what he meant to say. That man, I like him because he tells it like it is, but that ain't what he meant to say. The facts don't matter because their faith is supernatural, and what they're doing is of God and the divine, and so whatever information you are seeking to give them as the factual information or statistics that bear out certain points, if it's not according to what they believe and what they have faith in, then it must be of the opposition. It must be a fake. It must be a lie. You know? So to me, when I see this and I see these masses, well, hold on just a second. I see these masses of Anglo-Saxon people congregating and clapping and standing up and cheering this stuff on. I understand more now why I can put a link in to an MIT study that says a certain thing, and they're like, okay. Bicurian podcast says, I don't like to speak on behalf of my friends, but speaking on behalf of God seems super bold. Oh yeah. But this guy with his jet black hair, that's obviously a little bit of Beijing or something in there, but he has been tapped as what? That's his name?
Hank Kuhneman is his name. Yeah.
Hank Kuhneman.
You got a dude named Hank would tell you. He wouldn't tell you a lie.
Name.
A dude named Hank wouldn't tell you a lie.
Pasta Hank.
You know, he had his notes, obviously, but folded into his Bible and stuff and all this other crap.
I told you he'll read everything that's on the screen. Who put that on Ron Burgundy?
But it's just interesting to see that, you know, religion trumps facts, and God doesn't make mistakes except for that study. God doesn't make mistakes, but we don't believe that God may have inspired these scientists to come up with this vaccine. You know what I mean?
There's facts, and then there's the divine truth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's really what you just touched on perfectly. You can give people facts, but it messes with what they believe is the divine truth.
Yeah,
really, again,
and their cognitive dissonance won't allow that.
I could have sworn that I heard somewhere that facts don't care about my feelings. I know that I heard that somewhere.
Oh yeah, but it's
I was convinced.
Whose facts? When you hear that, it is whose facts. Hey, guess what? That guy wouldn't have been killed if he had just complied. Hey, wear a mask in the store. I will not comply.
Oh, trust me.
You see what I'm talking about there?
I'm so happy that you said that because I bring that up in the dig. So we'll move over to the today's dig real quick. Jackson, closing thought on the video you just saw, and then we'll jump off the topic.
Yeah, I wanted to point out how this type of stuff, how real it affects policy in different situations around the world. One of the reasons why the evangelical population gravitated towards Trump so much, and why they'll gravitate towards people like that, despite his characteristics, despite his character flaws, is because of the prophecies that are supposed to be upheld and withheld. For instance, why do Republicans support Israel and their activities so hard no matter what they do? Because it goes back to the prophesied return of Jesus to that place. Therefore, Israel has to be sustained. It has to be protected. If anything gets in the way of that, then the prophecy cannot come to fruition in the way that they've imagined. And that's just one of the examples, like the national prayer breakfast that happened. People come together under the name of God, but really what they're doing is selling weapons to each other and selling all different types of resources and things like that. So
it's time for Nancy Pelosi to stop going there.
Yeah. Well, and especially too, like moving forward, it's such a ruse. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the national prayer breakfast where, Mohammed bin Salman is attended. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay. Nobody gives a shit about that. They're just there to do business. That's what they're there for. It's the most powerful people on the planet congregating together.
And like you said, it's all about Israel, oddly, but Israel, 85% vaccinated.
Yeah. And I love, we talk about America first, and we talk about all of that, and then but we don't when you talk about the check that gets cut to Israel, every year, then people get quiet, and now it's not about America first.
But if you criticize it, you're anti-Semitic, right?
Oh yeah, you're anti-Semitic if you say anything bad about Israel, like, oh, the Palestinians fire rockets over to Israel. What do you expect they're going to respond? Well, 90-something% of those rockets get shot down by Israel's defense system, whereas 95% of the rockets that Israel might fire back into Palestinian lands find their target. And we don't see the dichotomy in that. You know what I mean?
Nope.
We don't understand. Oh, if they fire 100 rockets back, 95 of them are going to hit something. Whereas if the Palestinians fire rockets, maybe 5 might hit something.
Right, and 5 is still a lot. One person died is too much, right? We're humanists first, but the point of the matter is that it's a one-sided argument that you can't win because God has ordained Israel, and therefore they must win. So, all right, well, let's move into the dig topic for today. So today we're going to talk about the Emancipation Proclamation. Why today, Dutch? Well, because today is September 22nd, which is the anniversary of the preliminary announcement of the Emancipation Proclamation. So, Haas, I sent you 2 pieces to this.
Yes.
I didn't tell you before. They're backwards, so the second one is first. And Jackson, if you'd like to get involved in your Twitter messages, I have one for you as well, which I can cue you to read if you would like to do so. So,
okay, so the second one is Eliza.
The
first one is Eliza.
Yes. Yeah, you got it correct. It's my fault for not doing pre-production before the show. All right, folks. So in my 8th grade social studies class, my teacher, Mr. Humble, taught me things that it turns out maybe not was always the entire truth, but after doing my own research, which they always tell me to do, I figured out it wasn't exactly the whole story. And this week, we will dive into the 159th anniversary of the preliminary Emancipation Proclamation. Abraham Lincoln personally hated slavery. And by the way, Jackson, if you want to pause me during this because you want to comment on anything, just yell out, pause! Abraham Lincoln personally hated slavery and considered it immoral. He said, if the Negro is a man, why then my ancient faith teaches me that all men are created equal and that there can be no moral right in connection with one man's making a slave of another. I start with that quote. In an election with 82% turnout in which he received 0 votes in 10 states, election fraud, Lincoln won. And the Civil War promptly began because of states' rights. Of course, that's all it was about, was states' rights. So about 1.5 years into the states' rights war, the Union began suffering heavy losses and support for the war started to wane. Lincoln, in an effort to reestablish the Union, which was, make no mistake, his primary goal at first, said on September 22nd, 1862, that if the rebels did not rejoin the Union by January 1st, 1863, all slaves in the rebellious states would be freed. Lincoln likely would not have enforced immediate freedom for the slaves had the South complied. But as we know, Much like MAGA rebels today who scream, "I will not comply" to mask mandates, the Southern rebels yelled, "I will not comply" to the proclamation. And thus, 100 days later, he kept to his word, issuing the order. I never knew that, but today is 100 days from January 1st, I guess, every year. So happy New Year's in 100 days. Lincoln's decision to issue the Emancipation Proclamation was enormous. This event, combined with the determination on the part of African Americans to flee across Union lines, framed the Civil War as what it was, a struggle for freedom of enslaved people. In practical terms, the issuance of the Emancipation Proclamation was partly a military strategy and prevented European nations who had already outlawed slavery from intervening in the war on behalf of the Confederacy. And although he was at first hesitant, it enabled Lincoln and the Union to enlist 180,000 black soldiers. Lincoln didn't actually free any of the 4 million Americans held in slavery when he signed the formal EP. The document applied only to enslaved people in the Confederacy and not to those in the border states that remained in the Union, like Missouri. So while it's true that Lincoln hated slavery and issued the order, and at great consequence to himself, he was literally murdered for it, he essentially did only half the work. The rest was done by regular, everyday citizens, both free and not. Those stories are the focus of today's Dig, Big Hoss.
Eliza Potter was born in Ireland and immigrated to the Carolinas along with her husband, Lorenzo. At the start of the Civil War, Lorenzo was offered $5,000 a day. God damn. That's a lot of money back then.
That's a lot now.
That's a lot of money now.
$5,000 a day to lay mines in the harbor to aid the Confederate efforts early in the war. $5 a day.
And they might have done a Trump, though, and not paid the bill.
Right.
Facts. A white abolitionist, he refused. And he and Eliza remained loyal to the Union. Treated as a traitor, Eliza used her own money and materials to tend to wounded Union soldiers who were untreated by the Confederate medical community. She bribed officials and smuggled in food and supplies. And her and Lorenzo sold their family home to pay for a makeshift triage unit. Tragically, her son Frederick was mocked and bullied at school by his Confederate peers and whipped by his teachers. While going to school to collect his diploma, graduation, Frederick was attacked and bludgeoned, dying some months later. The Potters spent their entire fortune to help end the tyranny of slavery. That's deep. That's deep right there.
All right, Jackson, you want to take a stab at one of these?
Well, I have.
Can you pull up your Twitter messages, or you can comment on that one if you like?
In terms of my I have some general commentary about just what I think that people can really overlook about how big of a deal emancipation really was, because I think that people don't really understand how important slavery was to the existence of the United States at all. Slavery, since the ending of it, has been spun as just kind of like an old Southern tradition that, some people did and it was bad. But no, slavery was a constantly adapting and constantly evolving institution. It wasn't that, technology just, got so good and slaves weren't needed. No, slavery is free labor. Slavery is automation. It doesn't matter how good the technology is. You do not have to pay slaves. And it was ingrained in such a way because cotton was the most important commodity in the world at the time. And so the North, they invested in slavery. Banks in the North, people took out loans for slaves. Its land was robbed and taken away. That land was speculated upon the same way that people speculate on stocks today. And the entrepreneurs at the time were slave owners who would then go out to that land, work the land, produce more money, products would be made. And a lot of the North's disdain for slavery was really more so their anger towards the arrogant cultural figureheads at the time. Because once slavery was abolished and you got into Reconstruction, wasn't that long before Northern white people were like, enough of this equality bullshit. You know, we got to be fiscally responsible. We spending too much money on these Negroes trying to help them out. Let's get away from that. And so, you know, I think that, you know, again, to just talk about anyone who made a stand, it was extremely difficult to rebel against the institution of slavery in any type of meaningful way. So like the people that we're talking about today, like you really have to think about their bravery. Like slavery it wasn't just something you could just fight against. You know what I'm saying? It was, without slavery, there would be no United States. It was the glue that kept the Union together because it allowed the country to expand. So, you know, all these people who we're talking about today really don't get enough credit for how brave they were.
Mm-hmm. And the automation you talked about, that's a great way to put it, because I've said before, in real terms, using all that automation, as you put it, I hadn't heard that before. That's a great way to put it. It screwed up all the other people who wanted to actually work and they couldn't get a job because all these robots were working, right, for free. So much for trickle down economics. Could have swore that worked. All right, so we'll go to we have two more of these little histories to go. Jackson, did you want to take? I don't know if you even got the message. Did you get it?
No, I don't know if I got it.
Okay, it might not have came through because I sent it while you're on the thing. All right, so I'll read the second one real quick here. This is a short one. Born into slavery in Georgia, Susie King Taylor lived on a plantation until being allowed to go live with her free grandmother. Despite Georgia's harsh laws prohibiting formal education for blacks, Susie attended 2 secret schools taught by black women and was also tutored by 2 abolitionist white youths. In 1862, Susie escaped slavery and fled to a Union gunboat off the southern Georgia coast, along with hundreds of other refugees. There at 14, under threat of death, she became the first black woman to openly educate blacks in Georgia. She then served as a nurse and for 4 years treated the wounded without pay. Her memoir made Susie the first and only African-American woman to publish an account of her experiences in the Civil War, which ended. What a wonderful revolution. In 1861, the Southern papers were full of advertisements for slaves, but now, despite all the hindrances and race problems, my people are striving to attain the full standard of other races born in free sight of God. And in a number of instances, we have succeeded. Justice, we ask, to be citizens of these United States, where so many of our people have shed their blood with their white comrades, that the stars and stripes should never be polluted. That is, again, Susie King Taylor. Pretty astonishing, you know, like Jackson said, the bravery under the threat of literal death, whipping, whatever it might be, for learning to read. Big Haas, you got one more. This one is a well-known person, but we don't always know this part of it. So give us this part, Haas.
All right. Under the more you know segment, check this out. Harriet Tubman is widely remembered for leading slaves to freedom via the Underground Railroad. If that wasn't risky enough, she had a lesser-known job during the Civil War, serving as a spy under the employ of the U.S. Secret Service. She used the money paid to her to recruit other blacks to supply her with information. Turns out, blacks made great spies and were key in keeping the tide of the war in favor of the Union. Why were they such good spies? Well, white Southerners so underestimated them, something that still endures today, that they became invisible. Confederate military leaders fed incredible amounts of information to these eavesdroppers as they arrogantly discussed war strategies and attack plans right in front of their slaves. They either assumed slaves were effectively conditioned into total submission, get out, lacked the cognitive aptitude to understand complex conversation, or both. This information was routinely siphoned back to Tubman, who herself delivered it to the Union, being so precise as to give the exact locations of where rebels had planted torpedoes in the harbor. Tubman also assisted Union Colonel James Montgomery by leading covert military operations, going so far as to free 700 enslaved blacks in a single raid, burning a rebel port to the ground, and winning the battle with exactly 0 casualties. That's a phenomenal woman right there.
Absolutely.
Yep. Jackson, let's give you center stage here. I'd like to get your thoughts on how does this resonate? Whoop, let's move you over there. Sorry, Haas. There we go. Take you out of there. How does this resonate with you? Put this in context of today. We learned a lot about Harriet Tubman in school, but we only learn, about the Underground Railroad part. How does the rest strike you, and how do you think that impacts our politics?
I think the rest is a good example of, a half of a story that's never told. The other side of the story that people don't really want to look at, kind of how I pointed back to before, how slavery is typically, thought of as just this old evil Southern tradition. Well, it greatly minimizes what Harriet Tubman did, because it kind of makes it seem like she just kind of snuck in there and gathered people together and brought them in. But again, this was the economic engine and the glue of the Union at the time. All of the decisions that slave owners made were money driven. And so that was one of the biggest reasons why it was so difficult to rebel at all, because people were constantly being moved and shipped here, shipped there. After the Atlantic slave trade stopped bringing new slaves into the United States in 1807, slavery just adapted into kind of like a breeding program, and people were moved and walked all over the country like cattle. So that makes it hard to rebel. That makes it hard to organize. That makes it hard to bond with people, because you're constantly in this state of not just depression, but you're in so much emotional anxiety that you can't really connect with the world in any type of meaningful way, because you're nothing. And you have to give everything you can just to be innovative enough to survive. I
was just going to say, like, constant survival mode.
Yeah, and when you're in constant survival mode, you can't really group with one another. You couldn't read, you know what I'm saying? Like, and this was enforced through violence, and that's what people overlook. Like, slavery was an unbelievably violent institution, and,
right?
And it was repeated and repeated and repeated. And again, so you look at, but again, that could help. That made them overlook the fact that there were people listening and eavesdropping. The slaves knew everything about what they were doing. They knew all their business. They knew all their secrets. They knew all their affairs. And so it was easy to overlook the fact that, people like Harriet were able to create a spy network in such a way because they were so dehumanized. They were assumed to not be able to do anything like that. But again, that's the half of the story that really puts into perspective how brave and courageous and legendary this woman really is, because she was fighting against God, basically, in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? Like, her and everyone else. The only successful large-scale slave rebellion in history was Haiti. And they still ain't been shown no love. You know what I mean?
They were paying. They were paying. They got their freedom. They got their free liberation from France. But they weren't really liberated because they had to pay France, and I think they only recently stopped paying France, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, not just that, but they were completely blockaded from any type of meaningful connection to the Western Hemisphere as soon as they did get their freedom.
Right.
So they've just continuously been blocked off. So again, people like Kanye West who. That sounds like a decision to me, like a choice. You just like, nah, like people were always trying to break out. They were always trying to fight against it. And
he'd never heard of Nat Turner, and he never heard of one of the reasons the whole term white was created in the first place was because impoverished whites and slaves were getting together and causing uprisings among on plantations and things like that. So they're like, we gotta break them up. We gotta break them up and stratify them and elevate those poor whites just enough so they can look down their nose at the people that they were bonding with.
Slavery was such a powerful institution that this country went to war over it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like that, because again, that's really how people need to think about slave labor. It's automation. You do not have to pay these people.
Right. It's basically like human robots.
Yeah.
You
that's
know?
exactly what it is.
Because you don't have to pay them. You barely house them. You give them scraps and spoiled foods to the point where they create amazing seasoning in order to palate, to be able to be able to eat what you're giving them, you know. And now it's like a delicacy when we talk about soul food. But when you go back to the roots of it, it was, we got to put something on this because it's rancid. Mm-hmm. We have to eat it, but we got to put something on it because it is rancid. And that is the origin of soul food. And people don't even understand that, you know? Mm-hmm. It's so interesting to me that so many people will say it was about states' rights. And I'll say, finish the sentence. And they'll say, what do you mean? I'm like, states' rights to what? That's right.
Own human beings.
Own slaves. And I say, oh, so you never read the Cornerstone speech? You never read that speech and what he said in there? That what was the cornerstone of their rebellion?
The Articles of Secession for almost
every state,
almost all but one.
Mm-hmm.
And one didn't give it, and that's why it wasn't there. But like that the first two were explicit in their saying, hey, the white man is superior.
Exactly.
You know, or these types of things that we can't even fathom today, that people go back and try to whitewash. And this is like, I posted on Facebook earlier today. What you are seeing today is not rewriting history.
No.
It is rewriting history books.
Yeah.
By
telling the
adding
actual
history.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The previous volume or previous edition, volume 3.6,
had been heavily redacted.
Incomplete.
Yeah.
Right.
Heavily redacted.
So because you didn't get taught it in 8th grade government class does not mean that it was there. There are some areas where I can understand where people think it's being rewritten because, like, we have Columbus Day coming up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Columbus was painted a hero. We never heard a fucking thing about Columbus that was negative until we got into our 30s.
Mm-hmm.
So
I had my grandmothers on both sides were teachers, so I heard a little bit about that way before. You know, because we didn't celebrate Columbus Day at our house.
We're not talking about the elites like you. We're talking about the general public, okay? So the first time that I heard it, I was like, you have all this past history that comes in your head. So I understand the initial reaction sometimes from people, like the doubt, like, yeah, but well, he might have done some bad shit, but he was still like a hero, still like a good guy. It's still important to cover him. And like, but as you learn more, you start to shy away from that. And you're like, I mean, maybe he wasn't the worst human being ever born, but is he really worth celebrating on this particular level?
Right.
For doing nothing except sitting in the most luxurious cabin of the boat that he had chartered under the order of Queen Isabella.
Yeah.
Right.
And discovering a land where a bunch of people already live.
Yeah. The Vikings, some Africans are said to have gone to South America, perhaps, probably not.
North America. At the statues that they unearthed. You think this nose shows up in Mexico and other South American countries out of nowhere on tattoo, yes. on statues? These
on tattooing.
Oh, yeah. Tortuga.
Even at that, I mean, most of most of human history, the written language didn't exist. You know what I'm saying? So the majority of human history is completely undocumented. You know, we've been around for quite some time. Written history only goes back maybe 7,000 years.
Yeah,
and then civilization is only, and civilization was birthed from agriculture, which only goes back about 15,000 years.
Which started where? Which started where?
What, agriculture?
Around the Nile River is the first.
That's exactly right.
Very first proven areas where agriculture started, and the reason why it started there was because the Nile floods.
Yes,
which made irrigation basically natural, and people congregated to that particular area. So
because it happened every year, and yeah, exactly, it happened
like
every
clockwork.
Year. And that's what agriculture is, what allowed people to settle. You know what I mean, and not have to move around constantly. So, you know, again, like just to laughing at the whole you know, like he discovered this part of the world. Like, you know, people were there for over like good 20,000 plus years before that made over there. So
All right. So there, Haas, your closing thought on the Emancipation Proclamation, then we'll move on to Haiti. Or not Haiti, but the Haitians.
Yes. Well, the Emancipation Proclamation was a hugely important thing, but some things to take from that were, as you read, Dutch, Abraham Lincoln was hesitant to do it, and then when he did, he didn't do it fully. That was for Southern enslaved people, not those enslaved in the North. And also, you'd be remiss if you didn't mention what the Emancipation Proclamation birthed. It birthed the 13th Amendment. And in that was the little loophole that allowed slavery to continue.
Which is why you needed the 14th and 15th Amendments.
Right. Because then you had the loophole there, unless they're prisoners. You know, as I paraphrase.
Doesn't it astonish you guys that and this is definitely not true of all Republicans, and it's certainly not true of Democrats either in a lot of ways, but the people that I interact with on the left, and as Jackson, you don't know this, but I was a Republican up until 2015 when Trump came down the elevator, and I immediately left the party. And finding out that you're wrong about some things it's humbling, right? Like, so there are some things that I still think, and there are some, but like 80% of it is like at least moved halfway, if not all the way to the left, like on universal health care. You really can't be more pro universal health care than I am. But isn't it amazing that when you put things, Jackson, into context of the Constitution, how these Constitution lovers on the right really don't even know anything about the document whatsoever?
I think that reflects back into the conversation on, the religious zealots that we have. It's just whatever their idea that makes them feel good, that makes them feel safe, that makes them feel powerful and above is linked to their divine truth. And so it doesn't, like whether that's the Constitution or local laws or anything, whatever puts them in a winning position is they're ordained right by God. And it's really all the same game.
Are you at all religious?
I'm not religious. I grew up in the church, and I kind of went through a period where I was like, it's all bullshit. And I've evolved from there. I'm a very, collective-minded, everything is. I'm very aware that we're in a very large, there's a lot more going on than us, without me going on and on. But I wouldn't say I'm religious in any type of real way, but I definitely don't think that there's like no meaning in anything. I think that the universe is very much alive.
Right.
Cool.
I like that. I agree with that.
I agree with that as well. I'm just jumping on the bandwagon here today.
This is as agreeable as Dutch has been in months.
I don't have Mikey here to argue with. So let's do a little bit before we go into Haiti. I want to make sure we get to our second game.
Oh, yeah.
So let's find where the heck did I put this at here? So we're gonna play another game with our new friend Jackson here, who of course is going to make it so that I take over for Cenk Uyghur. I will be your new power broker on the Young Turks. But we're gonna play our next game.
Kind of looks like Jay Leno a little bit.
Cenk
Does not
Uyghur.
look
Yeah,
like
it does.
I've never heard that, but I can see it a little bit.
Just a little. Just not. He does, his face isn't as long as
the Turkish Jay Leno.
You're right.
So we're going to play a game with you, Jackson. You've heard of fuck one, marry one, kill one. We don't play that here because we can't talk about killing or fucking people. So we play prank one, marry one, snap one. So what you will do is you can prank call one, you can marry one as normal, and then you can snap one away like Thanos, but they're not dead. They're just out of existence, and they can be brought back by the Hulk. The Hulk can bring them back with another snap.
Yes.
Haas, a rule. You may not use AOC because you've used her 5 times. You may never use her again. She is forever boycotted.
But I really like using her.
Okay, but you're going to have to use your brain a little bit harder than that this time. Okay, how?
All right.
Now, you're a smart guy. You're an intellectual, as they
I
say.
am.
Or as Mikey would say, you're an interlocutor. All right, Haas, you want to pick the first one?
I'll go first.
Keep them in the world.
I'll go first. I got it. I got it right here. Bam.
Okay.
Right here. You ready?
Don't say some plus size model nobody's heard of.
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not.
I just giving you barking rules at you. Okay, go ahead.
Lauren London.
All right. Do you know who that is?
Yeah, you talking about from ATL?
Yes.
Well, I don't know who else you're gonna say. So that's the only problem.
That's why you gotta wait. You gotta wait until we're all done.
Okay. I'm going to give you who might to you be a bit of a cougar, but someone who I saw a picture of the other day and I was like, oh my God, she's still gorgeous. Holly Robinson Pete.
Mm.
You know who that is?
No, I don't.
You don't know who that is. Okay, it's Rodney Pete's wife. She's an actress from Hanging with.
You probably don't know who Rodney Pete is.
Yeah, you're too young. You're a young buck. All right. So I'll forget about her. Let's go with Kristen Cinema. Okay.
You know who that is? Wait.
Yeah, he knows who that is.
Okay.
And then
I'm gonna go with
all right, let me get the other one.
I'm gonna go with Fantasia.
Fantasia?
Yeah.
Okay, this is easy. I would prank call Fantasia. I would marry Lauren London, and Kirsten Cinema can get the hell out of here.
There we go. That was one of the easier ones.
We didn't do very well on that one. Let's do it over.
All right,
let's do it over. All right, we're gonna do another one. All right, here you go. All right, Lauren Boebert.
Wow. You give him another one to snap.
You started out with that one.
You don't know. He might go with Marjorie Taylor. I'm going with Marjorie Taylor Greene for my second one.
Okay. All right. I will go Mary J. Blige.
What? You are horrible at this game.
What?
Okay. You're supposed to make it hard.
Okay, Candace Owens. How about that?
Okay, there you go. Now it's hard.
Now we're making
Now Lauren Boebert.
Yeah. And Marjorie Taylor Greene. So you got Candace Owens, you got Marjorie Taylor Greene, and you got Lauren Boebert. Got him.
Oh God. Okay.
See, this is how it's supposed to be.
Hey, bump
okay.
Okay, let's see. I'm gonna have to go with, since I'm dealing with these three. Candace gotta go. Because she just gotta go because she's a black woman doing what she does. So she extra gets no love.
No picnic for her.
No. Marjorie gets the prank call, and Lauren, I guess I would marry her between the three because she's
Is she the most sane out of the three to you?
No, she's not the most sane, but she's, I guess, if I'm dealing with three crazy women, I would have to go with the one that I find the most attractive, and I would say it's her.
She is definitely a beautiful woman, and her brain is not.
No,
Right.
no, it's not. In an ideal well, in the real world, I would not choose any of those three.
Those three would get
But
stuck.
if we had to go with those,
No, you don't get to back off it like that. You
Candace,
no backing off. No backing off. You married. You just proposed to Lauren Bobbert live on Dig on America.
We put it on. We put it in the Instagram.
We sending that one right to Richard, right to Dr. Richie.
Oh man,
You're gonna be like, what the, brother?
That's gonna be a toxic relationship right there, man.
Could you deconvert
that ain't
her?
gonna be no good.
Lots of hate sex, I guess.
You think you could deconvert her?
No, I think she's too far gone. I think she's too old. I think she's gonna be like that forever. Forever. Yeah, she's done.
All right. So our last topic of the day, and thank you for being a good sport on that one. I'm gonna read a little bit of an article here. Haas, do you want to read the article instead, or do you want me to read it? Why don't you read it? Because I
read two things.
I have an unstable internet connection at this exact second. So why don't you go into our?
You going to share your screen or something?
No, it's already in the Facebook chat. So go ahead and read a little bit of that article. I'll start it out and then let you catch up with me. All right? How's that?
All right, because I got to pull it up because I put my stuff.
So so this is a little bit about. So right now we have. Well, Jackson, give us in a nutshell what's happening at the border right now, just so for those that don't know.
Basically, I mean, in a nutshell, what happened in Haiti, the president got assassinated, and just the conditions over there are in such a way that there's zero security. Crime is running more rampant than it normally does.
Did they have another earthquake there too?
Yeah, on top of that. So just on top of just the complete political and instability in society, the natural disaster made it even harder to live there. So thousands of Haitian immigrants have migrated to Del Rio to try to get in here. And basically what's happening is they're being treated like locusts. They're being treated like pests. They're literally being whipped there. And the Biden administration has announced that basically they're just going to get rid of them. They're going to kick them out. And one of the biggest problems with that is that the Democratic Party is not paying attention to the right people. This may be attractive. The Democrats are always worried about, at least the establishment Democrats are always worried about conservative voters or conservative Democrats.
I have to be nice to them.
Yeah, exactly. Because those are the people. But again, they're keeping their eyes off of the base. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden really dropping the ball here is hurting their chances at really drawing real enthusiasm in coming elections, and not just the coming midterms and for 2024, but also they're dropping the ball on what they're supposed to stand for. The Republican Party has no problem letting the entire world know what they stand for, what their principles are, and how they operate.
And then they follow through.
Exactly. This is where the Democratic Party is supposed to shine. And, there's a lot of, people talking about how, the Afghan refugees weren't treated like this. People coming in from Canada aren't treated like this because they're not black enough to be treated like that. Essentially, they're not black enough. They're not poor enough. And, so basically the Haitians that are coming here are seen as pests. And the Biden administration is just really, really, really damaging themselves and helping, they're not helping anybody handling it the way they are.
And the thing, and see, this is why I get irritated when people criticize us for always taking the side of the right. Turn on a conservative show and find me any criticism of anyone anytime, unless it's somebody who goes against Trump, like a Mitt Romney or something like that. They're never going to go against the icons in their party. Fuck the icons in the Democratic Party. Okay, fuck these corporate, elitist, disconnected establishment Democrats like Hillary Clinton and all of her friends, Joe Biden among them. For the most part, he's been better in the last few months sometimes, but then he went and echoed exactly what Trump said. We're using this as a deterrent for you to not come. Just if you come, you will be deported. That I thought I was watching a recap of the scary caravan that had Muslims in it from 2018, which of course had no fucking Muslims in it. Like I'm going to fly from fucking Iran to fucking Brazil and then walk. How fucking stupid are you? Right. But the problem is that the Democrats are doing the exact same thing because they're worried about getting that swing voter. Remember what the guy talked about on Victory Channel? He said, "Oh, you never hear the middle anymore being moderate." Bullshit. That's Biden's whole fucking goddamn
strategy.
No one even knows what his campaign slogan was. All we know is that he was going to reach across the aisle, right? And they pretended that doesn't happen. They say, "Oh, they talk it, but they don't do it." They're doing it right now in front of your very conservative eyes, and you're too fucking you do see it. You just don't want to say that you see it because it hurts your goddamn narrative. So let's talk for a second about why this is going on. Haas, if you have it up, I'll let you jump in. But basically, you have thousands of Haitian immigrants encamped at the Del Rio, Texas, in Del Rio, Texas, after entering through the Rio Grande and awaiting deportation. And I'm just going to bum through this real quick. How did they make their way to Texas instead of entering through Florida, right? So many of these migrants, experts say, were likely already in Central America because after the 2010 hurricane, a lot of these guys went to other countries in South America. They went to Brazil, who was about to have the Olympics. They went, and I'm not even reading from the article now, I'm just talking, but Brazil had the Rio Olympics in, what was it, 2012 or 2016? I forget which one was Rio. I think it was
2016 was the Olympics, and the World Cup was 2014.
Right. They had 2 in a row. So they had a lot of infrastructure that they were building. Once that job market died down, and the Brazilian government gave these folks work visas. They gave them status as what's the name that I'm looking for? They gave them refugee status under humanitarian causes. And then when the economy started to shit on itself under their right-wing president, no less, then people are like, hey, it kind of starting to suck in Brazil. We got a right winger in charge. They need to get the fuck up out of there. So they go up to Mexico. Mexico lets you in for a little while. Guatemala let you in for a little while. But then after they don't need you anymore, Chile will let you in for a little while. But then when those visas expired after a couple of years, they just say, get the fuck out. So where the fuck do you think that they go? They're coming to the promised land. And last I checked, we have a fucking labor shortage right now. So why the fuck don't we just let these people in? Obviously, I don't have a problem with interviewing them first.
They're from a shithole country.
And that's exactly what he called Haiti. Big Haas, go ahead. You don't even need to read that. Just tell me what Trump gets shit for calling them a shithole country, but the Democrats are in a de facto sense acknowledging that they agree.
Yeah, and here's the thing. One of my biggest things is everybody's talking about Biden. Where are our congressional Black Caucus congresspersons on this? Why are we not hearing their voice? Why are we not hearing them not only just decry and denounce through words, but put forth some legislation, put forth some measures to help these people? Because guess what? Where are they going to go? Where are they going to go? And, this used to be, give us your tired, your poor, your wretched, etc., etc. Exactly. Exactly. By Curian.
That's our friend Isla. Read that comment.
Give me your hungry, your weary, your poor, except when our classes, racist prejudices went out. And this is true. This is true because, when we talk about illegal immigration, we don't talk about visa overstays, which are mostly from Canada and other European countries. People don't want to talk about that. They only talk about the browns and the blacks. And, now we've got Afghani immigrants coming and refugees, and that's all fine, well, and good.
We're not taking in enough of them either. We should have taken every single one of those 80,000.
Especially those who helped us.
Yes.
Especially those who helped us. But here's my thing. The biggest thing that stands out to me is this. How long has American conservatives been talking about illegal immigration of browns from Mexico, etc., right? How many times did we see pictures of Border Patrol agents on horseback with whips? But as soon as heavily melanated people approach the shores, the good old days are back. Let's get our horses and get our whips. If that's not an indictment and a classic rebuttal of the America is not a racist country statement, what is? Because as soon as the opportunity arose, they hearken back to those days. Let's get our horses and our whips. Screw pouring out the water that some people might leave for these brown folks that are coming over here. Hey, screw getting our off-road trucks with all of our spotlights and all of that stuff. No, let's get our horses and our whips like the good old days. That says a lot about this country. And it says a lot that not enough people are vocally outraged about that. There are not enough people vocally outraged about that. And you see the silence is deafening from the conservatives, the Christian conservatives who swear to Christ that they're not racist
right now, because they're loving this. They're loving calling them hypocrites, and they're exactly right. Jackson, I know you got a lot to say on this.
Well, yeah, and just, you really pointed out what, in terms of the Democratic inaction, it's really just about reaching across the aisle to those people who do enjoy this. But those pictures of the Border Patrol agents on horses whipping, they're never going away. No. Those are cemented in history. Mm-hmm. Those are going, and just to, how you said, to show the very foundation and structure and backbone of what the United States of America is, how it was constructed, how it was made. And again, this does nothing to help your coming election causes, because progressives, a large part of the progressive base won't just vote for Democrats. Right. There's a huge portion of the base that they're not just going to do that. And you can't continuously shame them when you're allowing stuff like this. You're not even vocal about it. You're not even making noise. And I think also that this kind of snuck up on them in a way, because this isn't like typical routine political discussion. You always got, you always got Central Americans trying to come in here. That's happening all the time. That's routine discussion. Right. This is something that's a bit out of the ordinary, which really just goes to show the general laziness in Washington. They're not really working. They're not really doing very much of anything. They're not really on top of these issues, because if they were, they would have a plan for this. They would understand how they could capitalize on this as an opportunity. Again, even if for people who don't care at all about the Haitians, it's still an opportunity for the Democratic Party to win over the base, and they're not taking it, which, points out to, I think, Jason, what you were talking about earlier, about how the Republican Party doesn't actually want Roe v. Wade to be overturned, because then that wedge issue's gone. You know what I mean? So, yep. It's really just the same. It's just about maintaining the arguments. And this is something that's not normally in the mix, but it's something that's really going to come back to bite them in the ass, because they're just doubling down on getting them the hell out of here.
Yeah, and it's and I think that we're talking a lot about the issue, but what is the solution? Where are there any politicians out there who will really attack these issues in a transformative way? And are politicians, just by the nature of the traits that allow you to get into politics, are the politicians just not strong enough to resist the seduction of the power of being in politics in that way? You know what I mean? It's like I feel like a lot of people get into politics with the best intentions, and then they're just seduced by the power and everything, and it becomes just a constant, I got to get reelected, so I got to play all sides of the fence. I can't really stand on one thing.
All about your power,
unless it's on, unless it's on the side of hate. When we talk about a lot of conservatives, it's just, hey, I got to play the hate game. And they play that on the left too. Hate. But you got to play the race game. You got to play the anti-LGBT game. You got to play the the pro-life game, and we all know that. Hey, guess what? If when we talk about ending abortion, we're talking about for poor people who can't afford it, because these people with means are going to have their private doctors doing what they need to do.
Take us home on this, Jackson, and then we'll move into.
I was just going to add to what I said about I think it's a combination of the seduction of power, but also the defeat from the power. I think people get totally discouraged when they really get in there and see what they're really up against.
Yeah, seeing how the sausage is made. Yeah,
yeah, like when you really see that, and which is, I think that, I mean, anyone can come in, and there's different levels of government where different types of, like for instance, like police reform, that's really going to happen more on a local level.
Right.
So there's all different types of ways to be effective in government at every level. However, in the federal government, unfortunately, we live in a country that operates the way that it does. And if you don't already have some power when you go in there, then you're just another cog in the machine. Mm-hmm. Like you can't, you know what I mean? Like not that you can't have an effect, but you're going up against all the corporate money in the world. And if you don't have but again, who's that going to be? Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, who's that really going to be who really wants to go in there and dismantle themselves?
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's not an impossible battle, but I think that people can overlook what we're really up against.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, there we go. So we'll close out the show. We have our favorite segment back. I'm not sure, Jackson, you can stay on for this if you like or not. But what I want to do is I want to give everybody a chance to learn about your show, where they can find you. And then, first of all, if you're just listening to this show for the first time, you can check out digonamerica.com. You can go there, and all of our links are there. All of our cool new gear is there. If you want to check any of that stuff out, again, that's digonamerica.com. You can also go check us out on Twitch at twitch.tv/DOA podcast. If you can join us on Facebook, etc. And if you would like to support this show, if you would like to send large bags of money to us, marked or unmarked, we will be happy as independent media to take it, because George Soros's check has still not arrived. We are patiently waiting by the mailbox for George's check, but it's still not here. So if you would like to proxy for Mr. Soros and support the show, you can do so at patreon.com /dig on America. Again, patreon.com /dig on America. And if you're listening to the audio version and that's too hard for you to remember, just go to digonamerica.com. The links are all right there. Buy yourself a handsome t-shirt, a nice sweet hat, a coffee mug. You can get Big Haas's Pause shirt.
Pause.
Or you can, just tell us to go fuck ourselves like most people do. Jackson, where can the good people where the fuck is everybody the last 2 weeks? We usually have like 30 people in the chat, and today we're down to like 6. You assholes, get back here. But Jackson, tell the apparently negative 60 people listening at the moment where they can find you.
Yeah, go ahead and download Politoscope. It's an app that helps you keep up to date with legislation in Congress. So you can see who's voting for what, if they voted yes on this, if they voted no on it, and what that bill means. We have policy-focused news, and we allow you to donate your money to campaigns that you support. We got a lot of new stuff coming up. Download that. It's available on iOS, Apple, and Android products. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Politoscope app. And you can catch me on the Young Turks. I co-host on a variety of their shows throughout the month. And on Rebel HQ, their channel, where I do 4 to 5 videos a week, just dropping context on the news that's going on. So, yeah, definitely check that out. And appreciate you guys for having me on tonight.
And your Twitter handle, if anyone would like to follow you?
Slim Fit Chacho. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
So I take it you're slim and fit, and I think it said Boppy. What the fuck is a boppy? I'm sorry.
I'm just a funny guy, man. I just be feeling myself. You know what I'm saying? You never know what I'm gonna do.
You're gonna be feeling Lauren
Oh,
Boebert.
what's your
now.
OnlyFans? Somebody might be interested.
Oh yeah, nah, man. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm in production. You know what I'm saying? I got to come at it with a different angle. You feel me? So
Right.
that's what it's all about.
Got to give him the fish eye.
Slim Fit spelled the CHACHO. Is that
Chacho? Yep. CHACHO.
okay? So Slim Fit Chacho on Twitter, and then any other app that you're on that you'd like to promote while you're here?
No, that's it. Just download Politoscope.
Okay.
Check it out. Keep you up to date with everything going on a daily basis. And catch me on the Young Turks.
And you're Steph Curry's tall, thin brother, right?
With long hair, yes.
Yeah. All right. So the next step on the show is Big Haas will talk about real quick about the cigar that he's been smoking all day. Jackson, you are more than free to hang out for this 5-6 minutes if you like.
Actually, I got to get up early in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to get up early in the morning.
I know you're out east, brother. So thank you, man. We'll keep
thank
in
you
touch,
so much,
We'd
man.
love to have you back. Come back on the show, man. So
absolutely, let's keep in touch, and as we continue to make moves, let's make some more stuff happen.
Let's make it happen, brother.
All
right now.
Take care.
All
right, Big
Haas.
Haas. You are. It is time for everyone's. Well, but real quick before we play your music, your thoughts on Jackson, real quick. We can talk about him now. He's gone.
Real cool brother. Seems very knowledgeable, very polished. Yep. I can see in the future him probably making some inroads into politics to try to make a difference.
I think I agree with that there. All right.
Welcome to the Humidor with Big Haas. Find out what Haas is puffing and drinking tonight. If you try his suggestion and you die, that is natural selection. And the DOA podcast is not responsible for you being weak fucking sauce. So now, the one, the only, Big Haas.
I love that end.
I can listen to that intro all night long.
Big
that
Haas.
Intro is amazing. I love
Big Haas,
it.
what are you drinking? What are you smoking?
All right, so let's go with smoking first. I am smoking what is now a roach.
Got you, roach clip.
The Alpha Phi Alpha commemorative Theta chapter, Pyramid Barber Pole. Okay, it's mild, medium in strength and body. As you can see, it's all gone. I can't talk about the veinage. I can't talk about anything because I smoked it all because it was kind of a quick burn. The ash fell off a couple times really quickly. But it's a barber pole, so that means that there's a couple of different. There's a Maduro wrapper and a Connecticut wrapper on the outside. Okay, it's a Cuban seed. It's hand rolled, Nicaraguan filler and binder. Okay, and the special thing about this is it's aged in Spanish cedar vaults, and it's grown in Honduras. The tobacco leaves, but like I said, mild, medium type of smoke. Hold on, real quick. I paired it with Michener's Sour Mash whiskey. It's my first time having it. It was pretty good. It actually brought out some spice, brought a little bit of sweetness as well. I like this whiskey. It's pretty good. But as
My
I
air
said,
conditioner just fucked up, so I had to walk away.
oh no, it's fine. It's fine.
No, mine.
But I was just saying that the binder and filler are from Nicaragua.
Nicaragua.
Yes, this is all Cuban seed tobacco grown in Honduras. As I said, it's a barber pole, so it's got a Maduro wrapper and a Connecticut wrapper on the outside, so it gives it that barber pole feel of the old school barbershop.
MC Whitey, the Connecticut rapper. So
Yeah.
I'm curious though. Student number one here. As you get to the roachable areas of the cigar at the what we believe we call the foot in last week's lesson.
No. This is the cap.
The cap. Yes,
foot is
I'm
here.
sorry. Z is the first letter of the alphabet in Arabic. So, but it's not. I right, left, or I don't know anything.
Go ahead. Ask your question, student.
How is it holding up under the circumstances?
Well, as you can see, I'm at the very end. My fingers are starting to burn a little bit, which means the tobacco is really hot here. So that changes the profile of the cigar. It's actually getting a little bit more almost bitter. It's very earthy now, but I think a lot of that is just because the tobacco is so hot and you're getting towards the end. This was a torpedo, so that meant that it's pointed at the cap, even though I still did a V cut, but it was pointed at the cap. So now it's getting more and more concentrated with the heat on the tobacco there. So, as Cam Newton said in the last issue of Cigar Aficionado, the sign of a good cigar is one that you want to smoke until your fingers are burning. So, I mean, it was a pretty good
anti-vaxxer Cam Newton.
Yeah. But he knows a lot about fucking cigars, I'll tell you that much. But
so do you, Big Hoss.
Really good cigar. I like the wrapper because it's still kind of veiny. There's no way you can see it now. This was a Churchill, so it was about 6.75 inch by 54 ring gauge. Was really consistent all the way through until the end here. As I mentioned earlier, I'd get about maybe a half inch, 3/4 of an inch of ash, and it would fall off on its own in nice little chunks. I was expecting it to possibly be hold that ash a little bit longer, but that's okay. As I get towards the end here, the heat of the tobacco is really drying out the wrapper, so it's starting to crack a little bit as well. It's a great cigar. Like I said, it was a cigar made for a celebration of Theta chapter, which was founded right here in Chicago. And they came out with a 7 cigar sampler, and this is one of those that I got. 7, of course, being the number of founders of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity. A-Phi. I paired it with the Mitchners, which brought out some spice, brought out a little bit of sweetness. And I finished up here. I've got a can of Coke, so I'm getting a little bit more sweetness. It tastes like, in addition to the sweetness of the Coke and whatever sweeteners they have in there, I'm getting like a molasses
sugar
type of
Coke or sugar.
Oh, when I drink Coke, I drink Coke. I don't play. It's either cherry, regular, or
you're a Coke head.
That's right. I don't mess around a lot with the diet or the Coke Zero and stuff like that. If I'm gonna do bad, I'm gonna do bad.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? But
oh my,
yeah. So on the leaf-o-meter, I would give this a 4.35. I'm not a fan of the ash falling off so quickly, because that contributes to how fast it burned. I mean, I made it to 1 hour and 52 minutes here because I was kind of babysitting it because I knew we wanted to do this segment. So I kind of was like not puffing as much as I normally would, or puffing more than I normally would more frequently. And that also contributed to the burn. Now, if I've got a couple more of these, so the next time I'll smoke it, I'll make sure I have plenty of time to just kind of really tend to it. But the ash falling off allows the cigar to burn faster, I like a nice long ash to protect the cherry in there.
Pause.
And let it burn.
Pause.
A little bit slower, because then you're not superheating the tobacco, and you're getting a cleaner taste of it, a cleaner experience. But 4.35. I'm interested to know what it would be like with coffee in the morning. See what that's like.
And look at me bringing up the banner for the last 10 seconds of it. All right, so there we go, listener. 4.35, another successful humidor, another successful show. So with that being said, we have some really cool guests coming up. I have we're working on a couple political candidates, a senatorial candidate in Florida who's running against Marco Rubio. He's talking with me about coming on the show. We have a conservative author we have to talk about. So we have a lot of people asking us to come on. We're not really sure what order or who we're gonna have or what. Yeah. So but with that being said, we do got some cool stuff coming up down the road here. Alan Ellison is the name of the Senate candidate we're talking to. And we also have a guy we're talking to who is name is Jesse Sullivan, who is a so-called moderate Republican running for governor of Illinois. We're talking with him about possibly coming on as well. So, all right. But that being said, some cool stuff coming up. Thanks to Jackson for coming on. And we will talk to you motherfuckers later. Welcome back, Mikey, next week.
Yeah. Yay.
Yay. Later, all.